On January 25th, 2025, something happened that nobody could have predicted. Just 15 years earlier, Katy Perry, once the biggest pop star on the planet, launched herself into space for 10 minutes and 21 seconds, then came back down to Earth and kissed the dirt while promoting her failing tour to half-empty arenas. I know, it sounds chaotic, but what we're witnessing today isn't just a pop star having a rough patch. This is one of the most disastrous career implosions in modern entertainment history. And the craziest part? She's doing it all with a smile on her face, completely convinced she's saving the world. But how did it all go wrong? How did Katy Perry go from breaking records that stood for decades to performing Baby Shark choreography to empty stadiums? And most importantly, why is she refusing to stop failing? Well, by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how the woman who once ruled pop music became the internet's favorite punching bag. You see, when Teenage Dream dropped in 2010, it wasn't just an album, it was a cultural takeover with 5 consecutive #1 hits, making Katy the first female artist to achieve this feat since Michael Jackson's Thriller album. We're talking about California Girls, Teenage Dream, Firework, E.T., and Last Friday Night. These were anthems that defined an entire generation's soundtrack. But here's what made Katy different from every other pop star. She was completely in on the joke. The whipped cream bars, the candy-colored everything, the deliberately cheesy music videos. Katy understood that pop music could be fun without taking it too seriously. She had this perfect balance of self-awareness and genuine star power that made her impossible to hate. And the numbers don't lie. Teenage Dream sold over 6 million copies worldwide. Her tours were selling out arenas in minutes. She was dating Russell Brand, appearing on every talk show, and her face was literally everywhere you looked. It was Bieber fever level madness, but for a different demographic. Teenage girls weren't just fans of Katy Perry, they were obsessed. But perhaps more importantly, Katy felt authentic in her artificiality. Does that sound contradictory? Well, it should, because that's exactly what made her special. She never pretended to be something she wasn't. She wasn't trying to be deep or meaningful or change the world. She was making catchy pop songs about kissing girls and teenage dreams and having fun on Friday nights. And she was good at it. And I mean really good at it. But the thing about being at the absolute peak of pop culture is that there's literally nowhere to go but down. And for most artists, that's okay. You make your impact, you have your moment, and then you gracefully transition into being a legacy act. But Katy Perry had a different plan, because in 2017, the candy-colored pop princess was about to attempt something that would destroy everything she built. She was going to try to reinvent herself as a serious artist with something important to say. And that decision would mark the beginning of one of the most spectacular career implosions in modern entertainment history. By 2017, the world had shifted completely beneath Katy Perry's feet. She had taken a few years off after the release of her 2013 album Prism to focus on her personal life, stepping away from the spotlight while the culture around her underwent a massive transformation. Trump had just been elected. The Me Too movement was gaining momentum. Streaming had completely changed how people consumed music. Hip-hop was overtaking pop, and audiences were demanding authenticity from their artists like never before. So when Katy returned from her hiatus, she came back with Chained to the Rhythm. Now, it wasn't a bad song. It was produced by Max Martin. It had a decent hook, and the production was polished. But in a world where people were genuinely angry about politics, social justice, and economic inequality, Katy Perry offered vaguely anti-compliancy lyrics that didn't actually say anything. This was the lead single from her new album Witness, her attempt at a complete artistic reinvention. She called it purposeful pop. She talked about wanting to create music with meaning, but when asked about what the meaning actually was, things got fuzzy. Interviewers would ask her to explain the message, and she'd ramble about consciousness and awakening without actually saying anything concrete. It was like watching someone try to explain a dream that they couldn't quite remember. But the vague message was nothing compared to what came next, because Katy Perry wasn't content to just release confusing music. She was about to launch a marketing campaign so tone-deaf, so spectacularly misguided, that it would cement her reputation as someone completely disconnected from reality. The Witness worldwide live stream. For 4 full days, Katy Perry lived in a house with 41 cameras recording her every move, 24 hours a day, streaming it all live to the internet. The concept was supposed to be revolutionary, an authentic, unfiltered look at a pop star's real life. However, what actually happened was one of the most unintentionally revealing pieces of content ever created. We watched Katy cry during therapy sessions broadcast to thousands of strangers. We saw her earnestly ask an astrophysicist if math had anything to do with science. We heard her declare that live streaming is the most present form of media, as if the internet hadn't just been invented. But perhaps what was most disturbing was watching someone desperately try to convince the world and herself that this chaos meant something profound. She wasn't pulling back the curtain on celebrity like she thought she was. She was selling us a new kind of curtain and pretending it wasn't there. Every emotional moment felt manufactured. Every spontaneous conversation was clearly set up to reveal something she wanted us to know about her. The most symbolic moment of this entire spectacle was when she cut off her signature long blonde hair on camera. What was supposed to represent her evolution as an artist and a person instead became a meme for career suicide. Because here's what Katy Perry fundamentally misunderstood about the cultural moment. Audiences in 2017 weren't looking for performative authenticity. They were looking for genuine substance. The Witness era wasn't just a commercial failure, selling 180,000 copies in its first week. It was a complete misreading of what people wanted from their pop stars. But the real tragedy wasn't that she made a bad album. The real tragedy was that she had completely lost the self-awareness that made her special in the first place. The woman who once winked at the camera while wearing a whipped cream bra was now earnestly lecturing the internet about consciousness and spiritual awakening while eating avocado toast. She had gone from being in on the joke to being the joke. And unfortunately for Katy, this was just the beginning, because what happened next would reveal that her problems went much deeper than bad artistic choices. Let's start with the most damaging controversy of all, her decision to work with Dr. Luke. In 2024, Katy Perry released Woman's World, the lead single from her album 143. The song was supposed to be a feminist anthem, an empowerment track celebrating female strength, and for the most part, it seemed like it was. There was just one problem. It was produced by Dr. Luke, a man who had been accused of sexual assault and abuse by pop star Kesha in a highly publicized legal battle that divided the music industry. This wasn't some obscure producer that Katy Perry might not have known about. Dr. Luke's reputation was so toxic that other major artists had publicly refused to work with him. Kelly Clarkson famously cried and begged her label not to force her into the studio with him, and even refused to take a songwriting credit on her own #1 hit than to have her name appear next to his. Katy, on the other hand, happily collaborated with him for her supposed feminist album. When questioned about this decision, she would brush it off, saying, "The reality is it comes from me. I wrote these songs from my experience." She completely missed the point. Nobody was questioning whether the songs came from her experience or not. They were questioning why she chose to platform and financially support someone whose alleged treatment of women directly contradicted every empowerment message she was trying to sell. But this was not the first time she had shown her true colors behind the scenes. YouTuber Chandler Juliet publicly called out Katy Perry for crushing her pop star dreams on American Idol, revealing how Perry seemed to enjoy watching her get rejected on live television. A former backup singer revealed that everyone on her team is required to stand up and clap when she enters a room. When this backup singer gave Katy honest feedback about her music, telling her a new record was different, she dismissed him with, "It's not for you," and walked away. He eventually became so embarrassed about the association that he stopped posting about it on social media and resigned. The result? A completely insulated bubble where no one could tell Katy Perry that her choices were destroying her reputation and alienating her audience, which brings us to the final act of this spectacle. Her final descent was in January of 2025. Katy Perry somehow managed to find an even more tone-deaf way to humiliate herself in public. She went to space. space. Not to conduct scientific research, not to advance human knowledge, not even for a legitimate promotional opportunity. Katy Perry strapped herself into Jeff Bezos' vanity rocket for 10 minutes and 21 seconds of weightlessness so she could hold up her tour schedule while floating in zero gravity. While people are struggling with inflation, housing costs, and global crisis, Katy Perry thought it would be inspiring to spend millions of dollars on a joyride with one of the world's most hated billionaires. She called it putting the ass in astronaut and claimed she was doing it for the next generation of young girls. The backlash was swift and brutal. Celebrities like Olivia Munn, Emily Ratajkowski, and Lily Allen called her out for being completely out of touch. Even Wendy's, the burger chain, told her that they wanted to send her back to space. And when a fast food company is roasting you for being tone deaf, you know you've hit rock bottom. In response, Katy pulled out the victim card. She posted on Instagram about being a human piñata and blamed the criticism on people who are unhinged and unhealed. Because apparently pointing out that space tourism is wasteful during a cost of living crisis makes you mentally unstable. Meanwhile, her Lifetime's tour was providing its own form of entertainment, just not the kind she intended. Videos went viral of Katy Perry performing what can only be described as baby shark choreography to half-empty arenas. She had lightsaber fights with people in alien costumes that looked like they were bought from a Halloween clearance sale. At one point, she literally crawled under a piece of equipment like she was participating in a school fire drill. The production values were so cheap that audience members started calling her Timu Gaga. Similarly, ticket sales were so poor that venues were showing vast sections of empty seats. This wasn't just a bad tour. It was a public display of how far she had fallen. And through it all, Katy Perry maintains the delusion that she was winning. Her team kept insisting she was in the best place of her life, while the evidence suggests the exact opposite. She made cryptic social media posts about feeling unworthy and drowning in feelings of hate, but somehow couldn't connect those emotions to the fact that she had spent years alienating everyone who once supported her. This is what happened when someone becomes so insulated from reality that they can't see their own downfall happening in real time. In the end, some stars burn out gracefully. Others explode in spectacular fashion. Katy Perry chose a third option. She crashed back to Earth while claiming she was ascending to heaven. And now we're all just watching the wreckage, wondering how the girl who once ruled pop music with whipped cream bars and self-aware humor has become exactly what she used to mock. A celebrity so disconnected from reality that she's become the joke she can no longer see. Now, I want to know what you think. Do you think it's time for Katy Perry to call it quits? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And as always, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and we will catch you on the next one.